Most people install an Antidetect browser, click New Profile, and log straight into an account. And in those first 30 seconds, they have already made 3 mistakes that quietly link that profile to every other one they own. The tool is not magic. It gives you the parts, but a profile set up in the wrong order leaks the very things it was bought to hide. This is how to stand up a first profile the right way, step by step, so the device story it tells actually holds together instead of falling apart on the first login. What a profile actually is. Start with the mental model. An Antidetect profile is not a browser tab. It is a full, isolated browser identity. Its own device fingerprint, its own cookies and cache, its own local storage, its own bound proxy. Done right, two profiles on the same physical computer behave like two completely separate machines in two separate houses, sharing nothing. That isolation is the entire point. So every setup decision comes down to one question. Does this step keep the profile isolated, or does it quietly let something from your real machine or from another profile bleed through? Match the fingerprint base to the proxy. Before you create anything, decide what device this profile is pretending to be, and make it agree with the proxy it will use. If the proxy is a mobile carrier address in Singapore, the profile should look like a device a Singapore mobile user would actually hold. Right operating system, right screen, right time zones. If the proxy is a residential line, a desktop profile makes sense. The mistake is picking a flashy fingerprint at random and bolting a mismatched proxy underneath. The device and the network have to describe the same believable person, or the contradiction is the flag. The proxy goes in first. Here is the ordering that trips everyone. Bind the dedicated proxy to the profile before the profile ever touches the internet. Not after the first login, not once you have already loaded the account. First. The moment a profile connects even once on your real connection, it can pick up your true address, your real time zones, cached signals that tie back to you. So you configure the proxy in the profile settings, save it, and only then open the browser for that profile. The network identity has to be in place before the first packet leaves. Verify the exit before you log in. Never trust that the proxy is working. Check it. Open a plain address lookup page inside the profile and confirm 3 things. The address matches the proxy you bought. The country and city are what you expect. And, importantly, there is no leak, no second real address showing up through a side channel. A quick leak test that checks the address, the domain resolver, and the browser's peer connection behavior takes a minute and saves accounts. If your real location shows up anywhere in that check, stop, because logging in now would tie this profile straight to you. Time zone and language follow the proxy. Inside the profile, the time zone and language should match the proxy's location, not the chair you are sitting in. A good Antidetect browser can set these per profile. If the address exits in London, the profile's time zone should read London and its language should be plausible for there. Leaving your own home time zone in place while the address says another continent is one of the most common and most obvious contradictions there is. The account claims to be one place, the clock says another, and the two never agree over weeks of logins. Leave the fingerprint coherent, resist the urge to crank every randomizer to maximum. The goal is a profile that looks like one real ordinary device, not one that reinvents itself on every page load. A coherent profile has a font list that matches its operating system, a graphic string a real driver would emit, a screen size a real device ships with, all internally consistent and stable over time. An impossible combination, a phone screen with desktop hardware, a font set that does not exist on that system, is more detectable than a plain believable machine, plausible and steady beats, exotic and contradictory every time. Mef Natan, Bifondom. The rule that protects the whole system is one profile for one account, and never a second time. The profile is the account's device. Real people do not run 5 separate identities from one browser window, so your isolated identities should not share one profile either. Reusing a profile across 2 accounts hands the platform the exact device match it is hunting for. It is tedious to keep them separate, but that separation is the product you are actually paying for. Collapse it, and you have bought an expensive browser that links everything. Warm the profile before the sensitive login, a brand new profile with zero history that immediately logs into a valuable account looks like a shell that was stood up for one purpose. Give it a little life first. Open it, browse a few ordinary sites, let it collect some normal cookies, and cache over a session or two before the account goes in. It does not need weeks, but it should not be born and immediately handed the crown jewels in the same minute. A profile with a small, natural browsing history reads as a device someone actually uses. Keep storage isolated. Double-check that cookies, cache, and local storage stay inside each profile and never get shared or exported into another. This is usually automatic in a real Antidetect browser, but people break it by copying profile folders around or syncing them to a normal browser account. The whole defense rests on storage isolation. So treat any feature that syncs data between profiles as a hazard. What happens in a profile stays in that profile, or the isolation you paid for is gone. Name them and keep records. Once you have more than 2 or 3, memory fails. Keep a simple record of which profile maps to which account, which proxy it is bound to, and what it is for. Name profiles clearly rather than leaving a wall of untitled ones. When something goes wrong, you want to know instantly which identity is affected and which proxy it lives behind. Sloppy records are how people accidentally load the wrong account into the wrong profile and link two things that were supposed to be strangers. The team problem and backups. If more than one person touches these accounts, do not pass profiles around by copying files that breaks isolation and duplicates fingerprints. Use the browser's proper multi-user handoff so the identity moves cleanly with its proxy intact, and back the profiles up. Export them so a dead laptop or a wiped drive does not take a set of established identities down with it. An account you spent weeks warming is worth protecting against a hardware failure that has nothing to do with detection at all. The detibondancy or the house in importing a session someone else captured, pasting cookies from an unknown source, or logging in through a link that carries tracking. All of these can drag foreign signals into a fresh profile. The cleanest path is to log in normally by hand inside the finished profile over its own proxy, the way a real person would on their own device. Treat any shortcut that injects a ready-made session with suspicion, because you rarely know what came attached to it. A profile you built carefully can still be poisoned by a dirty login on the very first step. Detentions, a dirty login on the very first step. Difficulty of extensions. People love to load a fresh profile with extensions and add-ons, and every one of them is another detectable signal and another thing that can phone home. A profile carrying a wall of unusual extensions looks nothing like an ordinary user's browser, and some extensions actively leak identifying data or behave in ways that link profiles together. Keep each profile lean. Add only what the account genuinely needs, and understand that every extra tool you bolt on is one more trait a platform can read and one more way two of your profiles might accidentally start to resemble each other. Verify the fingerprint actually differs. Do not take it on faith that two profiles look like two devices. Check it. Open a fingerprinting test page inside each profile and confirm that the canvas result, the graphic string, the fonts, and the screen values are genuinely different between them and internally consistent within each. It is entirely possible to set up two profiles that you think are separate but that report the same underlying fingerprint because the tool was misconfigured or the base device leaked through. A quick side-by-side check catches that before you have linked two accounts by trusting a separation that was never really there. Do not reuse recovery details. This is where the device layer touches the account graph, and it is the mistake that undoes perfect profiles. Even with a flawless fingerprint and a clean proxy, reusing the same recovery email or phone number across profiles links the accounts in the platform's own records where no browser setting can reach. Each identity needs its own recovery details, its own email, its own number, kept with its profile. The profile isolates the device. It cannot isolate a phone number you pasted into 5 accounts. Treat recovery details as part of the identity you are separating, not an afterthought. The host machine underneath. One thing people forget is that all these profiles still run on your one real computer, and a badly built tool can let the host leak through. The profiles are meant to be sealed off from the machine hosting them. But if the Antidetect browser is weak or misconfigured, traits of your actual system can bleed into every profile at once, quietly stamping the same hidden signature on all of them. That is the worst possible failure, because it links everything through the one thing they all share. It is a strong reason to use a serious, well-regarded tool rather than a cheap clone, and to test that a profile really looks like a separate machine and not like your laptop wearing a mask. The common mistakes and the honest limit. The setup failures are almost always the same three: leaking the real address by connecting before the proxy is bound, mismatched geography between the profile and the proxy, and copy-pasting one profile into many so a dozen accounts share one device. Avoid those and the device layer holds, but keep the honest limit in view. The profile is only the device story. It does not fix reckless behavior, and it does not undo a shared payment card or recovery number sitting in the account settings. It is one clean layer, and it only works stacked on the others. I set my own profiles up exactly like this, each one bound to its own real Singapore mobile proxy. Match time zone and language, coherent fingerprint, warmed before the account goes in, because I wanted identities that hold instead of a browser full of linked shells. Multi-account ops. Com has the full written walkthrough, the leak tests I actually run, and honest reviews of the Antidetect browsers worth paying for. No affiliate guesswork, just the setup I use on live accounts. If you want your first profile to hold up, that is the place to start. Subscribe for more honest, tested multi-account ops. Next time, cloud phones, what they add that a browser profile simply cannot, and when an account genuinely needs one, instead of just a good desktop profile.